Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the matchup report today for a fun and exciting NBA edition. We've been teasing that we're going to try and talk some more basketball here soon, so here we are. We're both definitely excited to talk some NBA. We're about halfway through the season. Every team is creeping up on about 40 games right now, so we're getting there, man. The season's flying by, but the second half is always interesting because of the trade deadline, which is coming up here soon. Then like you have the post All Star break. Well, I don't. To be honest, I don't really care about the All Star break as much anymore. But the post All Star break is always fun, as you get teams like making final pushes and whatnot for the playoffs. And then of course we get to the best time of the year, which is NBA playoffs. You know,
Is that really the best time of the year? Like, I get it. It's like it's summer, like everyone's outside and everything. But like,
it's either that or the
okay,
NFL playoffs.
I was gonna
One or
say,
the
like,
other.
which one do you value more, NBA playoffs or NFL play? I know we cover both, so it's difficult. But
The well, I'll say all right. So the NFL playoffs, I think they're both like for their own reasons are great, right? But like
oh,
the NFL
what a
playoffs
cop out
are.
already. Here we
Oh
you.
my goodness! Oh my goodness! I don't know. It's hard for me to pick. It's hard for me to pick. It's like a 1A 1B situation. It's like I love both playoffs, and one of those is the NBA is usually the one that's like looked down on more. But I ooh, okay, this is gonna be a controversial take, especially coming from me and my history with football.
Oh,
I think I might like the NBA playoffs more at this point, just because of the longevity of it and the randomness that can happen. And there's different randomness compared to like the single like win and like whatever like the
yeah.
single elimination stuff with the NFL, which I do love. Like trust me, like I love that so much because it's you lose you're done. But the good part about the NBA playoffs is like you get these longer series that last at least 4 games where you see the teams kind of play that chess match with each other, the back and forth each game. So I think it's enjoying them for different reasons.
I'm kind of with you on that same thing because I think
Oh, so you're gonna call me out for copping out, and then you're gonna follow.
no, I'm saying I'm going NBA.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
I
okay.
actually stand on my principles and stand my ground
Oh,
instead
okay.
of
Oh,
flip flopping.
principles is
Um,
crazy.
so yeah, I'm agreeing with you in the sense that I definitely like it feels like it's definitely more of a chess matchup with the NBA
Mm,
because it's teams are forced to make adjustments in between games, and because of that, you see a lot of variation in different lineups, different ways to attack teams. NFL, I don't like saying oh you can get lucky a game, but like think about like the 49ers and Eagles the last time they played the playoffs where Josh Johnson is their quarterback like that because of the Brock Purdy injury. Like that's a lot of unluckiness.
yeah,
Obviously, like we could sit here and say, well, if Brock Purdy were to be in the game, then we don't know how it would shake out, and we don't. But that's why I tend to lean NBA because even if there are injuries, I still think we see teams have a significant chance. Like the Pacers, like Tyrese Halliburton goes down the first quarter, and the game was basically tied at halftime. Like it really didn't make a difference until OKC pulled away in that fourth quarter of that game seven. So or third quarter of that game seven. So it's just I think there's a lot more variation and just uniqueness in the NBA playoffs.
yeah. And I always love hearing like hearing how people because I think okay, not to get like too like deep here, like right away, but like I think sports, I think it's not talked about enough, like how kind of like personal sports can be person to person. You know what I mean? Like how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Like because if you think about like what is your favorite like playoff moment you've had as an Eagles fan? For you, my guess would be probably being at the snow game and watching Saquon
Yeah.
run
Oh,
it in like that.
dashing through the snow. Yeah. Well, actually,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, the Saquon moment was cool. I think the Jalen Carter moment was even
Mm.
cooler. Um,
But
okay,
it's
like
moments like that where you're like,
yeah,
that's like, there's a sentimental value you have with your team and the specific moments that come with it that make you enjoy it more, right? Like Browns fans, like they don't really have a lot of that. So
Jesus.
there's only one way you can go. Sorry.
just say, well, I mean, I know someone who doesn't have a moment. No, I agree with you though. Like I think like it's crazy because I very vividly remember LaShawn McCoy running through the snow against the Lions when I was like little.
Mm.
And then it was like it's crazy to see like you see Saquon out there running in the snow. So it's cool moments like that.
It's the Moneyball moment, right? Where they talk about how can you not be romantic about baseball, but it's an overarching sports thing in general. I think that it can apply to everything. Where it's like everyone in their own minds, everyone has their own personal way of romanticizing their sport and their team that they love. So, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's the beauty of sports. I don't expect us to start off that way, like less than 5 minutes into our show, but what a
I
nice
mean, it's a good
wholesome.
start. It's a good start.
Yeah. All right. But as we said, we're going to talk some NBA. There's a lot of big stuff to get to. One really big thing that just happened recently. We're going to be talking about trades that have happened, trades that may happen, players that are currently on the market that we know of. But then we're going to be, just kind of going through maybe some teams that we think should make trades, shouldn't, whatever it may be. We're going to look at the All Star voting. We've gone through 2 rounds of voting at this point, so we're able to see the numbers for like where certain players are in the East and the West. So we'll give our thoughts on that. Touch on some of the rookies from this rookie class because it truly is a special rookie class that we've seen so far. So I just kind of want to look at some of the players, maybe some of the lesser known ones and some of the known. And then we'll go in as usual, talk about some of our teams or maybe even just specific players that we just kind of want to have a conversation about. So excited to get into it. But yeah, you ready, Jay?
Let's go.
All right. So first things first, we got to talk about Trae Young. Was traded to the Washington Wizards, which if you had asked us about, I don't know, even 2 weeks ago, I don't think this team would have been top four and for either of us of like, not in like for fit reasons, but just for like teams we would have expected him to be traded to. And
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about the initial trade as it happened, but like the rumors started coming out afterwards or before where it was like, oh, his like top trade destinations. And then like, the Wizards popped up like 2 days before. You're like, the Wizards? And then it was just, it became very clear that like this trade was going to happen the moment like that news came out.
Yeah. I mean, so initially it was like, all right, like Trae Young is traded, and like I think we all kind of knew it was heading that way with just how the season has started. And then once because he was battling injuries, he comes back, and then it's like, well, he's not really meshing with this team, and you're having players that stepped up in his absence who are kind of suffering, with him back on the court. And like I think at first, like it is natural for as a head coach in an organization, you say, all right, like things just need to click. We need to see like them all kind of play together and mesh together. And then you see it doesn't click, and you're like, oh, like are we making a mistake? So it definitely is it's a decision to pull the trigger on a trade like that because you're like, all right, we obviously you're risking a lot for a player who has been pretty essential for your franchise the past couple years, ever since he's been drafted, like being that guy for your team. And for your organization as a whole, like I think that kind of gets undervalued when you have a star who can be your franchise player. And I don't want to say like they don't have that anymore, but I think you kind of look around and you're like, all right, like who you're putting a lot of trust in Jalen Johnson, you're putting a lot of trust in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels. Like it's going to be interesting. And don't get me wrong, I think they'll be able to step up. But I think the leap from like a franchise player to a very like an all-star level player like a Jalen Johnson is right now, I think it's different. And I'm interested to see how the Hawks will feel that. But on the other side of this, like I think at first like when I saw the trade, I was like, that's all. Like and at least from a like a Hawks receiving standpoint, where I was like, all right, like Trae Young, like yes, I know he's battled injuries, and he's not at the Trae Young that we've seen a couple years ago, where he's taking down Knicks fans in the in the Garden. But I still think like he's still I think a lot more valuable than what he was kind of like what the offer was. But I think the crucial part of this, and I think this is why Atlanta pulled the trigger on the trade, is the money situation, where I think like they're looking and saying, well, we don't have the money for what Trae Young is about to ask. Send him to Washington, where Washington's going to give him a blank check with all the rookies, and
Maybe.
they'll have the option for that. So I think that's what it came down to in my mind. But at the end of the day, like I still think this for Atlanta, I think they'll still be in a good place. Like clearly they were good without him. And yes, like it does hurt losing a player like that, regardless of how he was playing. Leading up to it, it wasn't the level that you've come to know him as, but he still is an impactful player. But I don't see this from a Hawk standpoint, this hurting them too much.
No, and I especially like the return. So the official trade was Trae Young to, like Weezy mentioned, to the Wizards, and the Hawks got back CJ McCollum as well as Corey Kispert, right? And I think that was really, it's so weird saying that.
Yeah, and that's why like initially I was like, all right, like that's it. But then you kind of like break it down, right? Yes, like CJ McCollum is that old veteran for you, who can be the I guess, and I hate using the term like, oh, he's just there for mentorship, because I still think he can give you.
Oh, I
good
think
stuff.
he'll get some minutes.
Yeah, I still think like he'll be a lot more impactful than no disrespect because he's a goat, but Chris Paul on your team, like Chris Paul, like you're
Chris
like
Paul's also 40, so yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to differentiate the two to say like, all right, like Chris Paul, you know what you're getting, and he's strictly a like we got a guy who's going to be the leader on this team and it can help the young guys around. CJ McCollum can do that and still give you valuable minutes out there and make impactful plays. And then Corey Kispert as well, like a young or relatively young player
He's
who
like 27, I think.
yeah on the younger side
Yeah.
ish.
You would say that's like middle of your prime.
Yeah, like he can give you something, and that's what I'm really interested to see what he could do in a team like this where it's like
I am too.
they're I don't want to say like they're I feel like this trade as a whole, and I don't want to say like Trae Young's a ball magnet, like he's not someone that necessarily needs to have the ball in his hands, but I think like at times it felt like this year he's like it's everything is forced to go through him, and I think the one thing about this is that this allows this team to be a lot more selfless, and we can see players, take advantage of that, and it isn't like a pass the ball to Trey and let him figure out run this offense and let him do everything. You can give him the keys to do that in Washington, especially with some young players who are still developing. But a team like this, where it's they just benefit a lot more from just teamwork and passing the ball around, and I think Corey Kispert fits into that.
100%. Like, I think Kispert has shown he can be a good shooter, and he's never really been on a team that's like had any kind of contention. I mean, he's been on the Wizards his entire career, so
Yeah.
I mean, just the facts are the facts. Like, so I always enjoy seeing because he's been involved in like trade rumors, like Kispert. Anytime the Wizards would come up for the past, like since he's been there, I feel like or at least past 4 years, and you've seen flashes where it's like he can be a effective shooter, a scorer in general for you. And I think his contract isn't too bad over the next couple of years either. So that also helps out the Hawks, which I think you brought up as like a big reason also for the Trae Young thing. Is like if you weren't going to extend him, and like if he probably wasn't that interested in taking the player option with your team, may as well move on from him and get what you can. Um, with the CJ McCollum stuff, I think especially when they get to more like clutch moments later in games, he'll be very useful for them. Just like as you, kind of like we said, you have that vet, but he is still an effective player and like scorer and playmaker. I think that's something the Hawks definitely needed more of because they've been putting a lot on some of the other players' hands, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's done well, but you can't fully rely on him to take half court shots with his opposite hand every time to help you get a score, right? But I don't know, man. And then for the train to the Wizards part, it's weird because I don't even think he's going to play for them this year, and if he does, it's not going to be until like I don't know March, like
Yeah,
late March. It's not
that
going to be till after the All Star break.
that's what confused me in this, and that I think this is what makes it better from a Hawks standpoint. If you're looking, you're like, all right, like well, like we were, I don't want to say carrying baggage goods, but and there's two like there's so many questions I had coming from this, which is one, how did he pass a physical if if he is like about to like if he's potentially missing the rest of the season? How did this trade go through? Especially when like and I don't know the exact like what takes to pass a physical thing, but with the whole Mark Williams situation last year, where it's like, oh, he's going to the Lakers, and then it's like, no, like it fell through because he can't pass a physical, and he was able to play after that. Like, what was the difference if you're getting a Trae Young, but it's like, oh, he'll do media day, he'll get into the uniform, but he won't play for us until at minimum March. Like it like
Well, I think they're also even if he is technically available to play, they're gonna. Because the Wizards are in a position where they're in an annoying position to me, where they've actually the younger players have been playing better, and this isn't a team that's been trying to lose as
yeah
of late. Like they've actually steadily been improving, and you can tell from their GM, their players, like they talk about all these meetings that they've been having, talk about like basically just saying like we have nothing to lose and we just want to let's just figure out how to win as this young core. And they've been relying on like CJ McCollum before he was traded and like Chris Middleton to help him out with that with the leadership aspect. But I mean like Alex Sarr, George when he was on the court, Bub Carrington, Koulibaly, like yes they also have some of their faults as young players will, but they've also been improving and getting to the point where the Wizards have actually been winning some games lately. However, they also have a pick swap with the New York Knicks where it's top eight protected. So as long as the Wizards stay like keep as long as the Wizards pick is 1 through 8, the Wizards keep it. If not, then the Knicks get it. So I think, and this is according to reporting from people like Bobby Marks, Mark Stein, who have been all over this, the Wizards are going to act accordingly, meaning they're gonna try and keep their pick.
Yeah.
So that's just a whole other motivation to not let Trae Young be out there. But when Trae Young, if and when Trae Young is out there, I do think this could help out a player like LXR, who has been in a very he's been very good this year, I think, and he's been an improving young player. I think he's still only 20 years old, but we're seeing him being better with his shooting. He's getting high. He's not just doing low post. He's doing high. Like he's getting stuff near the elbow now, being able to go through work there. He's a good defender. I think he's leading the game in the NBA in blocks right now per game. But that may only be because Wemby hasn't played enough, but still. I mean, the fact that he would even be like second right now is like, this is what you want. This is the development you want to see from your younger players. But like the pick and roll game that you could get from him and Trae Young, which is Trae Young is very pick and roll like dominant, right? That's what he needs to run, and that's also why the Hawks thing wasn't working out anymore. They like Jalen Johnson, yeah, he was becoming the primary ball handler when Trae Young wasn't out there, but they're also past the ball movement and the
Yeah.
just the off ball movement in general.
They outgrew the need for Trae Young, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Like it
Yeah.
was like
And they had a proof of concept because
yeah.
he got injured for them. And they're like, okay, well, let's see what we can do without him running the show. And then it's like, oh, well, actually, this might work in the system that they're running there with their coach. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that it ended like this for Trae Young there. I think, like, not unfortunate because I do think this could end up being good for him in the long run,
Yeah.
even if he doesn't stay with the Wizards. But at the same time, it's he's a guy. He took them to two. He helped take them to two different conference finals. I mean, we're not too far removed from him rolling the die on the Knicks court, even right, and then breaking their hearts. Not too far from that. Like he's had some special moments with Atlanta, and he's taken them to places that I don't even think they thought they could go some of those years. But things change. The NBA changes, right? The whole, despite what Draymond says, yes, there's still a lot of pick and roll stuff in the NBA, but that's not all it is. There's other ways to get at it. Look at the Heat, the Raptors, like teams like that, where the pace, the movement of everything. So you can't always have these heliocentric players like Trae Young running everything for you. And this isn't even to mention the defense aspect of it all.
Yeah.
And like I think you and I have been like pretty complimentary of Trae Young. Like I think we've been higher on him the most.
Well, we're not Knicks
Um,
fans, so
well,
we
yes, we're not Knicks fans, so yeah, it's just I do still think he can run an offense. He's a great passer. He's one of the best passers in the NFL, yeah, in the NBA. And I do think he still has a lot of value, but his shot selection as well as his defense can still be also a big issue. So it's like you can understand both sides on all this.
yeah, and that's why I I completely understand. Like as much as I feel like maybe you could have hassled a pick or something from the Wizards, especially considering they have such a young core and they're going to be competing at or at least still relatively in contention for higher draft picks. I think obviously not like a top 8 protected pick like that, but like at least something more to potentially build around with your core, who you're like, and I think like team and like schematic fit, I think, is something that goes really undervalued in today's NBA, and really even in NFL too. Like it's less
Mm.
so, but you could still like it really matters, like drafting players that fit, and going out of free agency and getting players that will fit what exactly you're trying to do. And like there's so many teams, and I promise I'm not just bringing OKC up to bring OKC up, but I think they're a perfect example of this. And even if they have struggled this season, you look at last year's championship team, and it was clearly like we are a defensive team that can, like, everyone 1 through 5 can guard. And then we play defense as a team and force things. And then on the other end, we have a ball dominant player like Shea who can get open and score a bucket at will. But we also have a player like J-Dub who can take the pressure off him. We have shooters around him with an Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. Like these type of things in roster construction really matter. And I think once you realize that a player has outgrown that, and specifically a coach's style of playing, you go, all right, cool. Like as much as you've done for us, like it's clear that like you have your limitations and we can go in a different direction.
100%. But I did want to ask you though, because this is my way of transitioning to the AD stuff. So there was also rumors that when this trade happened, that the Hawks still may be active in the trade market going for AD. But now, and maybe CJ McCollum or Kispert could have been involved in that as well, because we know the Dallas needs some more guards. Even though I'm a big Nemhard fan, but now that it's come out, the AD, it was reported earlier today that he has a ligament tear or a damaged ligament within his hand, and he may be out for like months now. They said there's no exact timeline, but the yeah, from Shams it just said like it could be months, which means you wouldn't be able to trade him at all this season if he's like that because he would be injured past the trade deadline. So I wonder how much that affects Atlanta in all of this, and if there's still another move for them to make out there. There's rumors that they may want to trade Okongwu or something like that, just to get some other pieces in there. Well, I don't know why I like Okongwu. Like I don't understand why I actually think he's a good player for them. But hey, if he ends up on a team like I don't know the Sixers, I wouldn't be upset about it. But um, so I kind of want to ask, like, now that there's no AD, and this can be a Hawks centric, but then we can move to just the AD of it all. But like on the Hawks side of it, no AD available now. What do you think? Like, do you think you just keep the current roster that you have, or do you think there's still time for them to trade for somebody and make a push here? Because it seems like they do still kind of want to try to like. I mean, they have the New Orleans pick, right? Which is most likely, even though like they've been playing somewhat better, that's going to be a good pick for you. So you can go out and you can try and win some games here and see what happens. Um, so I don't know. I just don't know how much the AD thing is going to affect them now because they made this trade before the news came out.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that, well, there's a lot of time until the trade deadline is actually over. You have until February 5th, and I think the Hawks can have it both ways, where they can see how this roster plays out a little bit, see how players like Corey Kispert or CJ McCollum are meshing with the current team, and then kind of continue to analyze and say, all right, is it really necessary that we go out and get another big, get another player to kind of add to this, or are we sustainable for right now? Can this be something that we can carry on? And I think really you really want to see, obviously, Jalen Johnson has been the guy for them this year,
Yeah,
but what is that going to be like when it's like, no, you like are our guy, like we're putting a lot of faith in you to really be this star and be this franchise player for us. I think he can personally do it, but like
he's been so good.
yeah, I really want to see if the Hawks believe that. And yes, like I think two things could be true. Like he can give you everything, but if it's sustainable, then maybe you're like, okay, cool. But if it's not, and you're seeing that he's like, not that he's struggling, but that he needs more help, and that you want to better build up your roster, maybe get some young players to develop. Like either way, you can have enough time from now to the trade deadline where we still have less than a month, but basically a month to really kind of figure things out.
Yeah, and starting January 15th, there's more players available to be traded. Like, for instance, Jonathan Kaminga becomes available to trade January 15th, which I feel like the Warriors might, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 1 in the morning on January 15th. We got a notification about him being moved because he's not even playing a lot of the games now. But
They've been holding him hostage, it feels like.
yeah, what are your thoughts on Kaminga?
So I think I think he showed a lot last year when he was really kind of like forced into the lineup. Steve Kerr had to play him, and it was
Prior
like,
to that Jimmy Butler trade, before he got hurt, he was hooping.
yes, and that's exactly where my head is at. Where it's like, all right, like, and I think that is when like it seemed like he was out of there. Where it's like, all right, like he showed his trade value, he showed what he's capable of, and then the Warriors were like, nope, you're not going anywhere, but you're going to sit on the bench behind Jimmy Butler. It's not going to matter. And I think especially as like I don't say like a super dominant scorer, but as a shot creator, I think that's where he looked pretty good, especially late last season, where I was like, oh, like may have something here. Like I think a lot
Yeah.
of people were quick to label him a bust, and I think like not to say like I can still see the case for that. Considering like it depends on what your definition of a bust is. Do I think he's went underperformed? Yes, but I think what is there to really do when it seems like the team has kind of given up on you a little bit? And I think that I think it's just necessary for him to get a fresh start at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see where he goes, and I mean, because I feel like the Warriors need to do something, but they're so adamant. Obviously, Steph Curry is one of the most untouchable players in the NBA. But the Warriors and like this is like management down to even Steve Kerr have all made it very clear they don't want to trade Draymond or Jimmy Butler. But if you're going to make any significant trade, I feel like, especially like the Draymond Green contract, like you're going to have to move one of them. So they're not willing to do that. So then I think you have to trade Jonathan Kaminga, but then what are you actually getting back for that? And what players are even looking for to help out the Warriors? I mean, obviously they kind of need like a 4 or a 5 that can do something for them, which is why they've been, in the Lowry marketed in the past, the AD like rumors, like they've always been involved with those. But they need to do something, man, because they're kind of wasting away the end of Steph Curry's career here while he's still playing exceptionally well. It's becoming too far common of a trend that he'll pop off for like 35 plus and have an amazing game, and then they'll just lose
Yeah.
because they just can't get anything else going. Like Jimmy Butler's Jimmy Butler, but he's not really going to be averaging like 20, 22 points plus a game now. And Draymond has regressed. He still has value, but when he can stay in games without getting ejected, like there is still value there. But this team needs some kind of infusion of talent.
Yeah. So, according to ESPN, it says that, and this was a couple of days ago, is that the Golden State is nowhere near a trade with any of the teams for Kuminga, but that the Kings seem to be the most interested suitors.
The Kings, okay. Do you
Which
get
they're in no man's land. So I mean,
you could get Ellis maybe if you want to add someone like that. Is that a Demontis Sabonis spot?
um,
But even can you make that trade
I
without
don't I don't
trading Draymond though? Like
I
his
don't think that.
contract.
Yeah, I don't think the Warriors have. Well, I think they have enough. They're not willing to break it apart. Which I mean, look, I
All right.
I understand loyalty to your players who have
Okay, this is what I was about
achieved
to ask.
championships.
Yeah.
It at some point you have to be like Draymond is not doing enough for this team that's worthwhile where we can justify keeping him on this roster.
Do you think there's I mean, we were just talking about the romanticism of sports. Do you think there's something like that where it's like you're riding this till the wheels fall off with like your I mean, they already got rid of Clay, so
Yeah.
that's partly kind of already at the window, but they're so adamant about keeping him and having him and Steph and their careers there almost seemingly together. Um, I just I don't I guess my curiosity is like how this is like a Steph question almost of like because I feel
Yeah.
like if he came up and said like, look, man, like I've only got like 2 years maybe left of me actually being able to perform like this, and it's getting to a point where they're gonna run him into the ground this year. Do you just hey man, like it is what it is. We'll do what we can with what we got, but if we're gonna keep this, legacy team together, then this is just what it's gonna be. Or is Steph gonna say like I love you, Draymond, but something needs to happen?
And it feels bad to put this on Steph and be like, well, what do you think? But I think like
It's his team.
yeah, it literally is his team, and I think the same way the on switching sports, the same way the Ravens have kept Harbaugh around for so long, where it's like you have success in the playoffs for so long, and the same way the Steelers keep around Tomlin for so long. It's like you have been instrumental to our franchise. You've been able to compete for so long and literally continue to win no matter what. But at some point, you have to say, hey, this has run its course. Like it is time. And I think to some degree, as much as I would love to say, hey, Steph, figure this out. I think at the end of the day, it's like it's. I don't like the idea of putting this on a player, no matter how big they are. Like LeBron, a Steph, a KD. It isn't up to them to decide roster choices as much as they can have an impact on it. And we know the LeGM memes and all of that. Like, at the end of the day, yes, that's fun and everything. It is still the front office who is making these trades, the front office that is acquiring players or improving their roster. And I think at some point the Warriors need to say, all right, like, to help be with what anyone thinks, we need to do this. This is what's best for the organization.
If you're a Warriors fan, which I should ask the Warriors fan of my family about this, but do you? I mean, do you prefer Steph and Draymond going to the sunset together?
I think Steph. I think that's where I'm getting at with all this is that I think you're like, hey, Steph is our perennial player. He's cemented himself into, even if people don't think he's top 10 or top 5, he's cemented himself into conversations where you can have conversations about him being a player like that, especially in also the greatest point guards of all time, like these conversations where it's like you are one of the all-time greats. Like he's cemented himself into these places. I think you're like, he is so instrumental to all of this, and there's the reason why the success is there. And yes, like that, not to diminish anything Draymond has done, because he's been right there alongside him the entire time, and has won the Defensive Player of the Years, done everything on the court that you on in, that you approve and not approve of. But like he's done it for you. He's been there the entire time. But I think when you look at how they're playing and you look at how sustainable their play is, you can say, hey, Stephen Curry is doing everything he can, and we can rely on his scoring, and we can push that and maximize the most of that. I think you've already seen a decline from Draymond where you're like, what more is there to get out of him? And I think and yes, like obviously we're not Wizards fans, so I'm not Wizards Warriors fans. So they could legitimately be like, hey, like we want Draymond to stay. I personally don't know any Warriors fans, so I don't know where their heads at with like Draymond as a whole. But I think from the outside looking in, I'm like, hey, Draymond, I value what you've done to the team. I don't know if it's the best idea moving forward to keep you on a roster.
I'm gonna text my uncle who's a Warriors fan right now. Actually, let me see if I can get him to answer me before the end of this show because I am genuinely curious. Like, what's the Warriors fans like thoughts and feelings on this?
Yeah.
Um, while I'm doing that, do you want to talk about the Ja Morant of everything that's been happening?
Let's go.
So Ja Morant came out, I guess yesterday, um, that he is on the trade market. Basically, this is the first time ever that the Grizzlies are openly saying like, "Hey, we're listening to calls for Ja Morant." Um, been obviously a interesting season for Ja Morant with them. He got suspended for a game because of stuff going on with him and his coach, team in general. He's missed a lot of games. I think he's only played like what 18 games for them this year. I think, yeah, he's only played in 18 games for them. They play your team tonight. Um, has been great. Like there's been flashes at times for what this team like they've kind of looked good. Like when they have a rolling. Like even John Moran at times, like he had a 40-point game against the Sixers and a loss. But he's had like some like games where you're like, okay, maybe we can get something here. But the athleticism looks like it's dipped, and maybe that's just because of the stuff that he's dealt with this year with the calf. But this is also an every year thing where he's injured now. It feels like Jaren Jackson Jr. is like he's a really good player, but he is what he is, right? But some of the younger players have shined. Like I think Zach Edey has played well. I mean, he leads the league in like paint touches, I think, this year. Um, he's played well for them as well as some of the other younger players. Like
Cedric Coward.
Cedric Coward is sick. He is one of my favorite rookies this year. I was going to talk about him later, but I think having some younger players like Cedric Coward be as good as they are right at this moment kind of also pushes like that. Hey, maybe we can trade Ja and see what you can get for him. My question for you though is, where are the best Ja landing spots?
So real quick, just some more context to this. Memphis is 10-9 without John Morant playing in the lineup. They are 6-12 when he does play.
Oof.
Which, yes, not good splits. But I think either way, like for what he's supposed to be to this franchise, you look at it and it stings more. And I think that's what makes them want to put him on the trade block because you're like, all right, like if this is like this, when he's playing, the numbers don't show it, and then when he's off the court, he's doing stuff where not just doing stuff, but the injuries as well. He's played just 59 games over the 2023-2024 season and the 2024-2025 season, between the two suspensions and then injuries. There's and I think this is important to mention. I don't think like we're getting to a point where we're putting him in the categories where Anthony Davis is like we're like, oh, like injuries are that bad where it's like it's super difficult for a team to want to trade for you. But I do think it does provide some bit of caution. So there's a couple of teams initially, and I think when you're speaking of Anthony Davis, I think the Mavs have to at least be some consideration for this solely because of needing a guard. And I think the Anthony Davis injury does make this a bit more complicated, because you're like, all right, like to what degree are you willing to give up to really kind of make this work? And look, I like this is my thing with Anthony Davis is that I could be wrong in this and saying this, but I think you know what you're going to get from him at this point, which is unfortunately a lot of injuries. Do you still say, hey, like, fuck it, why not? Like, like we understand what we're getting. Like, why not? Like, and the Mavs would be happy, with their new leadership who actually, kind of has some common sense maybe to say we need to get Anthony Davis off this roster. It's not beneficial for us. We acknowledge the past was clearly the past, and it was an error. You have to say, all right, like we're like whatever way we can ship him off and get some form of decent return for unfortunately an injury riddled player, like he still has some value, but it every day it drops more and more, and I think yes, this injury was a major setback to all this. But I still think if you're the Mavs, you're like, hey, still Anthony Davis, still when he's on the court, a defensive player of the year candidate. Like this is at least for a couple years, if you're looking for that final piece and you're willing to say, hey, we'll take on the injuries for a little bit, like it's okay. But it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But they're the first team that comes to mind, the Mavs. But I know, like, I don't want to say like Miami's been in kind of no man's land, but that feels a bit too aggressive. But I think while they're one of the teams that we know that plays at such a faster pace and potentially could fit a John Morant, even though you mentioned the decline athleticism could be an option, it feels like it feels like they need to make some like a change in their roster. And I think if you're like, hey, hell, if Tyler Hero is like we don't feel confident in him moving forward, maybe you make the swap. So I think those are two teams that come to mind initially.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I just I there's such a risk, and I think that there's always the timeline aspect of everything, right? Like if you're going to trade for, like you mentioned Anthony Davis, like if you were to be able to trade for him, your team, I don't know, because this is where the injury stuff is so damn
Yeah.
annoying. Because it's like,
Okay.
well, we need him now, but it's like, well, he's not available now, and
Yeah.
like you don't know if he's going to be available later. But
So
like,
another team that and I completely blanked over them because I wanted to ignore the fact that I was dead wrong to start the season about Rob Dillingham, and saying that he could be that guy. He's not proven to be that guy.
he's
Um,
struggling.
yeah, if you're the Timberwolves and you're like, hey, I know we're getting a player who has the off court stuff, has the injuries. Clearly, they've got it somewhat under control with an Anthony Edwards. Do you say, hey, bring him in here? I don't say fix him because that feels a bit too drastic, but we'll bring him in here. We'll make sure he's away from guns. We'll make sure he's away from all the crazy stuff. And we'll like make sure he can stay healthy. And you figure that out because I think the Timberwolves, like obviously they're competing like really good in the Western Conference. So you're not sitting there saying like you need to make changes, but I think
I do think the Timberwolves are a team that should make some
yes,
kind of addition.
and I think that's where I'm getting at with this is that yes, like you're looking to say, oh, you can stay afloat like this. Is it sustainable once you make the playoffs and you're really trying to take it to the next level? You're trying to take advantage of an Anthony Edwards prime. Yes, he's still young, so you're not panicking yet. But I think teams teams especially tend to get very complacent at this point of a star's career and say, well, he's developing. We have a Naj Reid, we have a Rudy Gobert, we have a Julius Randle. The roster looks good. Like why make any further changes? And I think this would be a time to say no. Like the roster's good, but Rudy Gobert's aging. We don't like every year like he becomes more of a liability for this team. You don't know about some of your other players. Like how long can you keep a Naj Reid, who's I feel like is still so valuable. It could be valuable for other teams. Like you have to take advantage of this. So
Yeah, I do like the Timberwolves one because they just need a true like guard right now who can run things for them. Like Anthony Edwards has been doing a decent job of it when he's been out there, but they've had to rely on like Mike Conley at times, and then that's like I love Mike Conley, but right now at his stage of his career, that's not who you want to be relying on
at
for stuff
his
like that.
big age, come on, it's
So yeah, this is where the John Morant thing is tricky because his shooting has been awful. Like all of his efficiency numbers have gone down. His 3 point shot looks broke. Like there's no other way to put it. Like it's just I think it's under 20. He's shooting like 19% from three right now. So that's not great. But he is still a guy who at times, if he can get the drives going, like he can get to the rim. He can get you some buckets. We've seen him pop off some games this year. But I think the biggest aspect that you would bring in with him if you were the Timberwolves specifically is the playmaking aspect where Anthony Edwards doesn't have to be so ball dominant, and he can not have to be the one that brings the ball to the court, and he can play off of John Morant a little bit more. But then the problem on the other side is that the shooting, which I mentioned, so if you have him out there in the starting lineup, then you have two non-shooters on the court, and Rudy and Ja basically, unless Ja can just get his shit together with the shooting part of it. But I don't know with where the Timberwolves are right now. If you're going to be saying like, okay, we got you, Ja, can you start getting better at shooting now for us? Like you're in a new area. I don't know. It's just there's just an inherent risk with this at all, which obviously the Grizzlies understand because they're trying to get rid of him. But I don't even know what the return you would get or what you would have to give up to get Ja at this point either.
Either way, I think any John Morant trade is going to be a risk because you're potentially risking sparking up all of the off the court issues. You're taking on a player who you mentioned the shooting splits is not good, but and I think this is where teams have to think about is it worth it in the end? And I think even if you like it's a calculated risk, and I think they need to continue to examine if it's worth it. And I think it's difficult for me to sit here and say yes, this is worth it. You should pull the trigger. John Morant will and turn around and figure everything out because I don't know, and I think none of us really know, and it's going to be difficult to say that.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting to see where that goes. What teams pop up for some of the reporters of teams calling and who's actually interested. So be watching that because like this is all still kind of like less than 24 hours old. So it's one of those things we're gonna keep monitoring. Something else that came up though in regarding to trades, a player that's been rumored for trades for several years now, but a lot this offseason especially, Giannis finally came out and said it. Something that Milwaukee's been asking him, all the reporters and fans have been begging him to finally say for I don't want to say years now at this point, that he would not ask for a trade. He said it's just not in his nature to ask for a trade. When you initially read that, in my mind, I'm like, if I'm a fan, I'm like, God, that's so great to hear. Like he finally said it. But like he's saying it's not in his nature to ask for a trade. Am I kind of reading between the lines too much here though? When I say like, yeah, you might not overtly ask for it, but your actions, your demeanor, like all these other things, and like there's only so much losing you can do as a player like that, who is of an MVP caliber type of player. Like, does he really want to stick it out with Milwaukee? Like, they could make some trades. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are options for them to make some other trades to get better players and shooters and whatever it may be around Giannis. But like, I don't know. I just when he says like it's not in my nature to ask for a trade, people do stuff out of nature all the time. Like, we can bring up the Miles Garrett stuff with this, right? Where it's like I don't like was it in his nature to ask for a trade? I don't know, but he did, and then he stayed because of the money. So I don't. There's just a weird aspect to this where it's like maybe I'm reading too much into it, but just him saying it's not in my nature to do it doesn't fully make me go like, oh well, then he's gonna stick with Milwaukee. That still wasn't like 100% to me. Where there's still a part of me that's like he could still be moved, even if it's this next off season. Like I don't think that was like a 100% like I'm staying in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and it's difficult to like I understand where you're coming from with this, but I completely see it, and I want to agree with you with it, but it's difficult because if we were to both co-sign it, people are gonna be like, oh well, like you're gonna read like this is the stuff where it's speculation, and I think well one we're on a podcast, so what else would we do? But I think to some degree it's like
Well, we could talk about being an alpha male or something
yeah, no, we'll stay away from the lifestyle topics. Let's just stick with,
like
no, it's difficult because you're like, hey, you understand the predicament the Bucks are in, where it's like you have this perennial player in Giannis who is still going to be impactful for the next couple of years, and he's already won a championship for you. He's given everything he could to the franchise and to the city. At what point do you say let's reward him by let him going out and play his final year somewhere where he can actually be impactful while we're still in the midst of whatever you are. And I think from a Bucks standpoint, I think at this point you're not only wasting the rest of Giannis's career, but you're also wasting the time to potentially start a rebuild and potentially cut down the time of being in a losing space, because either way, if you're going to lose Giannis at some point, and I don't want to say like, oh, that's the reason why you have to trade him now. But I do think if you're like, hey, at some point, maybe next 5 years, like you have 5 years left of Giannis, like do you trust that in that window you're able to build another championship competing team, or do you say, hey, we're not going to be able to get there in the rest of his tenure of him being dominant. Let's start our own rebuild now by shipping him off. We'll potentially do the tanking for a little bit, bring in another young star player that we can kind of develop. And I'd much rather them go that route than they continue to be in the middling land of, well, we have Giannis, so that makes us contenders in quotations because he can guide us there, but we're not surrounding him with the pieces to show that it really matters. So I think for the Bucks' sake, it makes sense to just be like, hey, let's clean, not clean house, but let's begin to start this rebuild.
Yeah, I don't even know what you do going forward. Like you brought in Miles Turner, Ryan Rollins has emerged, but besides that, I just like you have a decent shooter in AJ Green. You've got Kuzma and Porter Jr. there. It's just like I don't know. As I said, I just don't know what the future. Like how do if you do keep Giannis, how do you build around him?
And that
Is my
and exactly, I think when you look at this and say, hey, we're gonna have a lot of leg work to do if we think that if you think that Kyle Kuzma is making a big enough impact on this team where he is crucial in a championship winning team, then you deserve
well,
every failure of success that's about to come to you.
with him and Miles Turner hasn't been great lately. He hasn't been honestly that good for a little over a month now. But like Giannis has been in and out of the lineup. The Bucks are weird. But hey, good luck, Doc Rivers. I guess. Um, I did get a text from my uncle back already. By the way, he sent me 4 messages in response to me asking him about
Ooh.
Draymond and the Warriors.
Oh,
He goes, "This is from a Warriors fan. He is the emotional engine. He is the driver for the defense. If you trade Draymond, it will take 4 other players to replace every role he has on that team. He has grit, he is clever, he is glued. He may be undersized and he may be a ticking time bomb every game, but no one, and I mean no one, can replace all the things that he does for us." Uh, that's from my uncle, Michael Blankenship. Um, Interesting. So I actually wasn't expecting that much of a no. I guess I should emotional kind of like attachment to Draymond, but I guess he has meant a lot, obviously, to that franchise. So I can get what he's saying, but it's just again, it's like you can have all those feelings about him, but does that mean you keep him at the cost of your team's success?
yeah, and especially at this point in his career, like, and obviously it's difficult for me to say I haven't had a player like that in really any of the sports. When
Mm.
I'm like, hey, like he's like a club legend or a team legend, where it's like, oh, you're so like you're there just to be there because of the memories. But I think at some point, like I think I'm a more rational fan where it's like I can say like I understand that this is what's best for the organization. Well, I guess Russ even, like it's obviously it was sad to not see Russ be a part of a championship team like OKC last year, and to lose on the way out is like, dang, like could we sign him for a 10-day or something, get him on the roster for the finals or whatever it is. So I I understand that aspect and the emotional attachment to it, but I think it becomes a matter of, can you separate the two.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see, man. All right. Other potential trades. Do you have any teams in mind that you think should be looking to make a move?
So I mentioned the Heat in terms of the jaw trade, but like we're like, what do you see them like? I think they're a team that it feels like they're always in talks for trade stuff, but do you see them being aggressive at all, or
I don't know about a great because my thought with the Heat is they have the style of play that they're working on, and it's slowed down a bit. Like not entirely. I mean, they're still the fastest, like pace wise. They're still number one in the NBA, but they've dealt with some injury stuff with Tyler Hero on and off the court. They're still clearly trying to develop the Bam Kello Ware like lineup together. Like it was like a funny joke, but kind of funny joke for everyone that Kello finally passed the ball to Bam Adebayo for the first time this season, a few games ago, which is just weird that that's like such a significant thing that had to happen for them. But they're they clearly want. They're trying to win. Like they're not a team that's trying to tank, but they're also a team that, while trying to win, isn't having the exact success that they were having earlier in the year. So now you do have to evaluate your roster and be like, do we keep Tyler Hero? Is he too pick and roll dominant? Like, is that even how we want to play? Because we've been doing less pick and rolls, and that was working out well for us earlier in the year, where we basically weren't setting screens at all. It's just drive, kick out, drive, rotate around. It was a lot of fun to watch, but things started to slow down and teams started to figure out, and now here you are. So yeah, do you make a change? I think it is time. Like Miami, they're annoying because they're always involved in these trade talks, and besides like the Jimmy Butler stuff, it just feels like they don't ever really make any of these like big trades when you kind of think they should. I mean, they're also so like stingent when it comes to their players, and I do
Yeah,
think it's Miami first, right? Like you go in there, you have to be a yes man, you have to follow our rules, our guidelines, like all that stuff. It's so like strict there.
and
Um,
if you don't, they'll find someone who will because they are very good at developing undrafted players and picking and saying, hey, we see your potential. Get him in the lab with Spo, and he'll be a new Lakers player in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, but I just if you do, because they're always linked to teams like like they were like a Giannis or an AD type, like they're always rumored with like these bigger guys. But at the same time, it's like I don't. What is the trade to make here? Like, are you just getting rid of Tyler Hero and or Bam?
I I
And I don't even know exactly what it is this team would need. Like,
yeah
is this a job team? You already talked about it, but it's just like these are all the questions in my head with the Heat. It's just like I don't know what it is that can be brought in to help them.
yeah.
Maybe more shooting. They could probably use more shooting, but no more pals out there airing it out. But
Okay, so switching off the Heat, there's a couple of other teams. I think we
Mhm.
have to talk about the Lakers, like always being in trade
Yes,
discussions. Um,
hey,
and it,
hey, you tell Draymond he can go play with his best friend LeBron. Maybe his attitude changes towards the trade.
Braun, you said? All right. Well,
Oh
what
yeah,
are we
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah,
LA
yeah. I
ain't too
got you.
bad this time of year. Well, any time of year, I should say. I haven't been, but I don't know. That's from what I hear. I think like the obvious thing for them is defense. Like very clearly is like we would
Their
need
defense
another.
is so goddamn bad.
You would need another defender, maybe even another shooter. If you get someone who could do both, that'd be preferable. But I think bigs are an issue for them as well. So, and this is the thing is that it's the same type of discussions with the Lakers, like over and over, where it's like, oh well, like they're gonna be in trade talks because you're still trying to get the most out of LeBron. You have Luka Doncic, like you're like, all right, like how can we get all this to work? And then at the end of the day, it's like, well, you tried something, it didn't work, and I think this is a big part. Like we don't know entirely. Like we obviously hear bits and pieces, but there's probably a lot more communication with teams than we think. And I think the
Oh,
Lakers
100%.
are one of those teams where it's like they're reaching out to anyone available with a big who can at least try something. And they're like, hey, we need something fresh, we need something new. So it's difficult to ever say like confidently that like someone is a clear target for them because it really doesn't matter if they're a clear target because like something is like, and I think something could happen, but also the pressure of playing in LA I think is also a big factor when it comes to trades because you can be as good as you however you want, but once you get put into the main spotlight of being one of those being for this playing for this premier team that's been there for forever and been a crucial part of the NBA, the pressure is a lot.
Just for context, the Lakers this year are ninth in offense. They're 21st in defense. And that honestly feels better than I thought it was. Like just being
You
totally
you
upfront with
started
you.
to say 20 and I was like 20 28th.
Yeah, it's like they should be happy that they're even there. Although the past 2 weeks it seems like it's getting better, but strength of schedule and players in and out and whatnot. I just if you're starting lineup and Austin Reeves is out right now, but if you're out there with Luca, LeBron, and Reeves, that's three average at best defenders that you've got right there. And then you're asking a lot of like Marcus Smart, Vanderbilt as he's continuing to work his way back in. DeAndre Ayton is a non-plus everywhere. He's so goddamn disappointing, dude. I said it before the season. I said it when they signed him. I was like, this is not going to go well, and it has not gone well. He is just. I don't understand why he has such a problem with effort and why he still thinks he should demand like all these touches. But
Yeah, there's one clip in particular that's been going around where it's like he comes in, has like absolutely zero effort, and then JJ Redick just immediately takes him out.
as he should,
Um,
as he should. And dude, JJ's had his own issues this year as well, man. Like it's just it's getting to a point where we're starting to question like, all right, how are you going to like what's the moves here? What's the change? Like how are you going to get this team to like actually put in effort on defense?
and especially like the way that he's kind of come out to the media, and like every time it feels like there's a new quote of I'm trying everything, like I don't have much here, like like I'm trying, it's not working, I don't know what to do, like all, like
All things you want to hear from your coach.
yeah, and like oh look, I appreciate the honesty. You, I don't know if like
I'm trying.
yeah, like I don't know if like as a fan, if like if Nick Sirianni was to come out and be like, I'm trying my best. Actually, okay, that might work with like Eagles fans relative, depending. If he was honest and be like, hey, we're messing up, but we're like,
Yeah.
we're trying. Then like we're trying to get things on track. I think Eagles fans would be like, you're right, like figure it out. But it would be some form of leniency.
Yeah.
Either way, this was a like the way he's been talking. It's like it's worrisome to hear that and be like, well, I still have faith in the Lakers as a whole, because yes, like to some degree, like it's a lot of front office decisions and bringing a DeAndre Ayton in. And he's like, I can't get him to, even move to like play help defense or get a
He
rebound.
just
Like,
stands there.
yeah.
I go. It's,
what I think the next progression might be they always talk about Darvin Ham having his hands in his pockets. Like I think at some point we might see DeAndre Ayton just on the court on defense, just hands in pockets. Um,
I,
but
oh, so if the Lakers,
yeah,
so you I think they need a center.
but
I Gafford has come up. Maybe Jaron Jackson if the Grizz are willing. Maybe someone like that.
contract stuff.
Demontis Sabonis.
Yeah. I could see a Gafford just because, and I think like the Lakers need to consider price. Like you have Luka Doncic, you have LeBron, and I think that there's another aspect I think of the Lakers that with the way that Reeves was playing to start the season and has been like as hot as he is, do you say like, hey, like if there's a team that really needs a guard, like perhaps like if you're looking at a Gafford and you say Mavs, like you need this guard, give us a Derek Lively, for example. Like
I don't think I
would
have
you
a
be
feeling
willing
they
to?
don't want to get rid of Austin Reeves.
I get that feeling too, but do you still say, hey, like he's his trade value is looking good. Like he's turned into this scorer and like effective at will scorer. Like, do you say, hey, we need a center a lot more than we need a guard?
I think this is also another timeline question though, because are you trying to go all in to win a championship before LeBron retires? Which, according to him, is like I don't know, maybe it's 4 years from now. We'll see. He keeps talking about I don't know. Uh, but you have because there's obviously like there's the LeBron factor of it, right? Where it's like, are we trying to win a championship before he leaves? And then there's also the Luca and Reeves aspect, like what you're talking about, where it's like that could be their future. Like those two guards could
Yeah.
be their future of the backcourt for like 10 years. Well, Luca, I don't know if he's going to be playing at 37, but you get what I'm saying. Like this, they have. There's
For
a
the
future
foreseeable
versus,
future.
huh?
For the foreseeable future.
Yeah, for the foreseeable future. Yeah, well, yeah. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, what this I do not envy the Lakers right now. I don't envy their timeline. I don't envy their coach right now having to deal with all of that. I mean, you're juggling Luca, LeBron, and DeAndre Ayton, and just the Lakers in general. That's just that can't be fun. But yeah, it's just, are you trying to go all in now and you're just saying, fuck it, like we'll just spend whatever we need to do. Let's try to get LeBron one more. Or are you saying we need to take a more holistic approach to our future and not give up so many assets in any trades that we make because we're trying to sacrifice some like future years for right now basically, or maybe even next year with LeBron. But are you doing all that for a 41-year-old?
I I would say personally no. Like, and but I do think at the same time there's going to be a lot of pressure, and as much as LeBron probably doesn't do this, but there's a lot of pressure to say, hey, this is LeBron fucking James. Like we need to give him out, give him like on a positive note, to finish his career off. But I would be really impressed if they were to just like kind of ride the storm out and say, "Hey, trust us on this," like, and
Mm,
we will be in a much better place following.
true. And they're also the Lakers, and players just fall into their lap. So who knows? We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. All right. Other teams that you're looking for potentially making trades here soon.
More so like just the Nets for Michael Porter Jr.
Mm,
Because the way that he's been playing, and look, I think like people will always look at the Cam Johnson trade and say, well, like, the Nets won the trade because Cam Johnson hasn't been as effective for the Nuggets as Michael Porter Jr. has been for the Nets, but you he doesn't become the player unless he doesn't become the player that we're seeing now on the Nuggets in that roster in that system because the Nets are well they're the Nets so they're gonna say go out and do whatever you want. We're trying to figure out what we're doing out here. We don't know running this team, so go ahead and just go have fun out there.
yeah.
And do what you want. And I think giving him that full creativity, like has full creativity in that role to say, hey, go out there and do whatever, has allowed him to be one of the better scorers in the league this year. So
He was an all-star this year.
yes, and I think if you're one of those teams where it's like especially if you're confident on your defense and you need a scorer, I think it's worthwhile hitting up the Nets because they're not competing anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, they're always a team to look for. We don't know what's going to go on with Cam Thomas there. It sounds like they may want to keep him, especially because of his age, and that you probably won't have to spend too much money on re-signing him. But yeah, the Nets. Can I give you one? The Clippers. I think. Look, they need to win. They have to. They have to win. Like there's no tanking for the
Do
Clippers.
they
Like
really
you,
have to win? Why don't they
yeah,
take the
yes. I'm
why don't
sorry,
they
OKC, but they need to win. And Kawhi and James Harden. Kawhi, by the way, good God, first ever 50-point game recently, and it was Heat, dude. This is maybe a slight tangent. I said this last year during like the Denver series with the Clippers. When Kawhi has it going, when you can tell he's just like in that flow state where he's just hitting all of these fading middies, just one after the other, after the other, after the other, and then he's also still able to contribute like plus defense on the other side. It's just so fun to watch, man. Just a great pure hooper, man. Like he just like watching him get into that flow state, like anywhere near the elbow, is fantastic. But you have him and Harden who are clearly trying. You get some other younger guys like the Kobe's and the Buffkin and Sanders out there trying to do what they do. You get Derrick Jones Jr. back, that's helped him out a little bit. Zubac, I don't know. Like it's been kind of a disappointing first season for him, but I do think he's been getting slightly better. But they need players. Like they need to do something. But I just don't know what that something is right now. Like who can you actually
yeah.
bring in? Is
It's
that a job
difficult.
team?
I don't think so. And it's difficult with an aging roster because you're like, hey, we have potentially really good players, but you're only going to get them for 3 seasons max. Like and I think it's going to be difficult. And I personally don't know what the direction is for them, but I do agree with you. They need to do something. As an OKC fan, I'm like, keep it going. Like do what do what you're doing now. But looking on the outside, you're like I still like you need to figure something out.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I have one more team to talk about with trades, and then we can move on to
The
the
way you
All.
said that makes me a little worried, but
You
continue.
should be because I'm talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, and I'm not doing this just to mess with you. Like I'm being serious. There clearly seems to be something going on with the team where you guys have been struggling. Teams are openly saying that they seem to have figured out your defense, how to attack y'all. There's been talks about you all being able to dish out physicality, but not being able to deal with it as much yourselves. Anytime this team starts to struggle, or anytime this team loses a game, which to be fair has only been 7 times this season, so in my mind, I'll make this very clear up front. I don't think there's any need to panic with Oklahoma City Thunder at this moment. However, 6-4 in your last 10. A lot of your losses have come at the hand of the Spurs, a team that is second seed right now, right below you. Obviously, a threat to your team. You can't not say that they're not a threat after what's been going on this season so far. There's the kind of joke that everyone's been making, but also I think everyone's like, it's like out of like a, oh, like Sam Presti could press the button, haha, but it's also like a, oh shit, like Sam Presti could press the button. Like he has the nuclear red button option available at him for I mean, honestly, for the next several years. But like with this team as current, you just won a championship. Are you rolling with them, or is there any part of you that's like maybe we start to look around? It doesn't have to be a big trade, but you obviously have the assets to move. Are you
Yeah.
just sitting on them?
I okay.
And
I,
I'm going to leave this to you because
yeah.
you're the OKC one. So
So all what I'll say is that this exact same team won you a championship. I My initial thought is to say no. Um, I think there are highs and lows in the season, and I naturally this past month was a low for you. But the good thing is, and this is what I've been telling myself internally to kind of cope, is that it's 4 wins for a series, and the Spurs only have three. So I think that's how you look at it, just to be positive. But I do think at some point it comes down to are certain players that and this is kind of similar to a Draymond situation, but not entirely because like OKC isn't a dynasty at like Golden State was, but
but you're all homegrown players who have such a like
yes,
significant value, like not
exactly.
off the court, not even just on the court to that team.
Like a and Lou Dort has done a lot for the organization, and he was an undrafted player who got his impression and really kind of stepped out, especially during that bubble, like the bubble, what do they call it? Just the bubble.
Well, pure
And
hoops.
yeah, it was pure hoops, and you were like, all right, like this is really something here. And he was one of the only players besides like Shea, to really kind of stay from that era, of like, all right, this is pre what it would have been. Yeah, Shea was there, but this is Chris Paul years where he's coming in and giving those final like that final push to be like, hey, I'm training, taking Shea under my wing, teaching him the point guard stuff, and then I'm disappearing to another team to go make them win some more games. And I think you saw that Lou Dort became a lot more than just a defender and being able to shoot the ball at least somewhat better. And I think at some point you have to say, is a player like is his performance and what we're seeing from him substantial enough to be impactful in the playoffs and guide us beyond that? Because I think and you could definitely say this, like when you have a player like Casey Wallace who's like waiting in the wings and has kind of been behind him. But and like to be fair, they both start both of them. Um, I I start to question if a player like him is really necessary, moving forward, especially if you can. And yes, like I understand his value isn't probably what OKC's value of him probably isn't what other people value him, solely because I think at this point in his career you're like, all right, the shooting numbers are going down. He's shooting 38% from the field and 33% from three. So you're like, like it's serviceable, for some team out there. I don't know how positive that is for a team to be like, hey, we this is a necessary trade for us, but you're getting a high upside defender. And I know there's all the jokes about him being super physical and fouling. But if you're OKC, you start to question. Yes, we appreciate what he's done and been one of the pre people before this championship roster and one of the few carryovers. But is it does it does it impact us and actually impact winning moving forward? And I think that's a question that I genuinely started to like think about with the team. But that would be, like you mentioned, a smaller trade. I don't think it's a situation where you're like, all right, like we're shipping two or three young stars off for a big name star like a Giannis, because I think that would ruin too much of what you have going forward, where
Hmm.
you still have a lot of identity of we are a great young team who is winning, who just is fresh off a championship and can only improve from here, especially with the draft picks. And you see the way the Clippers are playing, you're like, hey, this is good. At the same time, though, they still do have a shit ton of picks. Like it gets obnoxious, even as OKC fan, to sit here and say, "What are you going to do with all this?" Like
Gotta
you
do
have
something.
a player roster limit, like like you like, and this is what I was starting to question after they won the championship. It's like, all right, like you're here, you're still here early, like you're like, and I think it's easy for people to forget that when you have Shea playing the way that he is, and you have everyone working as a team. You're like, oh, this is we're here early. Like you still have a lot of draft picks. You still have a lot of capital. Like, what are you gonna do? And I think yes, like you still want to have some of these players until they, are replaced by better players, but or not better players, but at least, re, suitable replacements for them.
Can,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I float one to you? You want to get rid of a lot of picks. Obviously, you want to look for a team that. How do you feel about a Malik Monk and Keon Ellis package?
Um. Okay.
You need shooting. That's
Yeah.
also something that's become very clear with your team on offense. You need shooting.
Yes. I've
Malik Monk
unfortunately,
can do that.
and this
Keon
is
Ellis can kind of do it.
yeah. But Keon Ellis provides the defensive upside that they love.
And you can still take Malik Monk off the bench as your six man.
I honestly wouldn't be mad with it. Like I like especially like the
By the way, I'm just saying that
yeah
as like a armchair GM. I haven't fully
yes.
looked into the cap numbers and all this. This is just something that popped in my head earlier.
I think especially when you consider that there's still some players on OKC's roster who are going to draw attention. Like, and AJ Mitchell is going to draw attention from and yes, he hasn't been at the level that we've seen him to start the season. Still impressive what he's been able to do this season and really given a lot more creativity in his second year. Like, this is, and I think this is like, there's going to be a lot of discussions about OKC. And I think one that I want to keep an eye on is like, at what point do you say, this player has outgrown this team and his value is going to be much more impactful on another team where we can ship him off and he can be impactful for someone else, and it doesn't, you can have someone else take a step up and be significant, play significant minutes in your rotation.
Yeah.
And I think a player like AJ Mitchell, even like an Usman Dang, who I think like he was really hooping in the G League. Like I think that's a player at some point he's played 17 games for them. Like you say, hey, he could be a good rotational piece for some other team. So I think these are the type of decisions that you're starting to think about and say, what players can you kind of find ways to offload, to bring in pieces to better fit your team. And it's crazy to say that for a team that's like a championship, but a championship a couple months ago. But besides the 3-point shooting, the rebounding has been another issue as well. When you don't have a Hartenstein on the court, or you don't have a Chet, and yes, the physicality is a big aspect of that. And Hartenstein is that physical center. And I think besides, like, you look at those two and they like to run them together, then you have really only a Jalen Williams, the Jalen Williams with a Y, that you're relying on to come off the bench and be that forward for you. So as much as I would love to say like we need or to see like more shooting from OKC, I think I would much rather see if there's one acquisition, I would say getting another big to kind of take the pressure off them. Which bigs are, we talked about every other team. Bigs are really hard to come by.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that to you as like a thought exercise. See where you were at with it as a fan.
Stretching, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, let's move on to the All Star stuff. I will just say real quick: pay attention to the Pelicans. There's a lot of talks about Trey Murphy and players like that potentially being moved, and the Pistons. They also are another team. Cade needs help, like shooting wise. Like they need another shooter out
But
there for him.
they kind of came out and said like we're confident in this roster. Like, how do you feel that's like, to what degree is that like entirely true? Are they saying that to just like say it, or
You can be confident in your roster, and I think they have reason to be. I mean, the one seed in the East, right? It's not like they need to make something drastic, but when things get tighter, when you get to the playoffs, you're gonna need someone else who can get a shot. Besides Cade, like from three, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just someone else he can kick it out to. He can have as like a reliable shooter. So I don't know, maybe that. Like, there's always the rumors of like they do talk about players like Tobias and guys like that being important to the roster, not just like on the court, but just like as a team chemistry kind of thing. So I can get why they don't want to move on, but I don't know, man. You start to falter a little bit here towards the end of the regular season, then maybe you start thinking like maybe we should try to make a move here before the deadline. But I don't know, just a team to look out for.
yeah,
All right, let's move to the All Star stuff. So we've gotten, it's mainly obviously like the fan stuff that's going on, but we've gotten the second returns for All Star voting. Um, we probably should have brought up the graphic. That's on me. But
I'll pull it up real quick.
yeah, so the fun thought exercise with this is always, who's in, who's not, what's the argument for certain players being while others aren't, things like that. Um, I'll go over the top five for each conference while we're bringing this up, and then we can look at the rest of it. So, in the West, you had 1 through 5: Luca, Jokic, Steph, SGA, and then Wemby, Anthony Edwards, right there at 6. Um, and then in the East, you have 1 through 5. You have Giannis, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese, Maxey, Cade, and then Donovan Mitchell. But then I'll say you have Jalen Brown right there behind him, who I think actually deserves more than where he's at. I think Jalen Brown should squarely be in the top five conversation in the East. Um, I mean, there's potentially arguments to be made that he could be an MVP at this point. But all right, yeah, let's look at this. Are there any players off rip when you're looking at this where you think someone is missing?
Um, it's a, it's a lot, like 40 players. Well, it is 40 players, so
Yeah,
yeah,
they
a
did 20 each.
lot.
Are you okay with the top fives in each? We'll start
Top
with
five
that.
in each. Yes. Or at least,
Okay.
I'm looking at the West right now. Yes. East. Yes. Um, yeah.
Like I said, my only change with the East is I would move Jalen Brown up. Maybe him and Donovan
That,
Mitchell just
that's
swap
what
it.
I was just thinking too. But they're right there, and I think
Hmm.
this is as much as we would speculate and say, oh, this is like this is so disgraceful that a player is so low. Like at the end of the day, this is just fan voting. And there's a whole another impact to this where it's like people who I don't say people who actually matter, but like people's thoughts who are making this their lives and like actually like understand the game on a deeper level than a fan saying, "Oh, Lamelo goes out there and shoots one-legged threes. He's fun. He should be in the All-Star game." Type of vibe.
Hey, the Hornets have been fun this year. They might not win a lot of games, but they've been fun.
They
What are
win
they?
they win games against OKC. That's seems to be the case.
That was just a ghost of PJ Washington.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey, Conca nipple though, Jesus man. Yeah. Well, okay. So I was gonna say Joel Embiid being. I mean, he's at 17. That was a bit surprising to me, but I guess shout out Philly on that one. I mean, not to say that he hasn't been playing well. Like he has been playing, like especially the past month, he's been playing very well, even in limited minutes. Um, I was glad to see Scotty Barnes finally get some recognition. Maybe it's just because there was a push after the first round where he wasn't like in the voting, like he wasn't on like the list at all. Maybe there was finally Toronto was like, hey, what the hell, like Toronto, like can we help get this guy in there? But he rightfully deserves to be, I think, within the top 10 of the All Star right now. Like maybe I'm too high on Scotty Barnes with how he's been this year, but he's like genuinely been really, really good for them this year.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm trying to think if anyone I think of missing. I don't know. Lowry. Oh, George. That's what I was gonna say. George from the Jazz, his teammate.
Keontae George.
Yeah, Keontae George. He needs to be on this list. I think he needs to be on the list. I would put him over players like Jimmy Butler right here. Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even okay, Cooper Flag is way too high,
Mm.
and all this, and yes, like I understand like pride of Dallas at this point. Eh, Even in Anthony Davis, like I don't think,
Yeah.
and yes, I think like there will always be the people who will throw a LeBron, a KD, a James Harden, a Kawhi, Anthony Davis on there just because the player, like you hear those names, and you're like, well, they've been playing good. And this is why I say like, yes, I understand. This is fans vote. Fans are 50% of the vote, as it says here on the right side, and then NBA players are 25, and then the media panel is 25 as well. So there's a lot more, because these are things that are at stake for players, like contracts and stuff. Where if they make these, it looks like not looks good. It gives them extra money.
Mm.
So these are things that like I think need to actually, I don't say fans need to take this seriously, because I like there's always those people, and I see it all the time, who are like, oh, check out my All-Star voting, and it's like the most like just they just
The
choose
most
random players.
bias.
the most like you're like what the fuck is this like like, but it's part of the the fan voting culture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some Celtics fans out there trying to put like Keita or Hugo Gonzalez in there or something like
Yeah,
that. But
you're like
which they've been
all right.
playing well. But yeah, it's like you always see stuff like that where it's like, all right, like relax. Um, okay. I mean, yeah, it's just I want to see where we're at. I want. I mean, obviously, I want to see like the official voting, but I want to see as we get closer to like a week or two from now, like what it's looking like. Um, I don't know. I can't think of any other player. Like George was the big one for me. Like I thought he definitely needed to be involved within the Western Conference voting. Um, besides that, I couldn't really think of anybody that was like egregiously missing.
Yeah, and this is I
But
think
it is also like 20 players each. So
yeah I think once we'll also get a much clearer picture and we can get angry once we see like the full entirety of this and the full like once they actually cut it down to who makes it, um because like that's what really matters with all these. Like we can say, oh, like it's cool to see Diddy Abija up there at 7 for the West, and the way he's been playing, it's great. But it like over a player like, yes, I mentioned like Katie and LeBron, but I still think that they both had better years. Well, Katie, I don't know about LeBron.
mm,
So I think these are all things that like once we see the NBA players in the media panel vote, we'll actually get a clearer picture.
yeah. All right. Unless you had anything else for All Star, I just wanted to do a quick checkup on the rookies before we move on to certain teams.
Nope.
All right. We've talked about it plenty of times. Like anytime we've had the show so far this season, like how impressive this rookie class has been. It's been nuts. I mean, just looking at like you could look at like the top three picks, right? Between Cooper, Harper, and VJ Edgecombe, but then it's also the guys that were taken lower down as well, where they're starting to pop, and you're like how was this? Like this draft class has a potential. Like we're looking back on it like 10 years from now, like holy shit! Like all these guys are still like significant like contributors at the very least to their teams. Like it's just this many good players in one draft is feels unprecedented. But I mean, like I will real quick with like the top guys, like VJ. I don't know what it is, man, but you get that man to clutch minutes in the fourth quarter, and it's he just churns it on. I mean, he's had a couple games even recently where he's like over 4 or like he's only got like 6 points, and he's kind of having like offensively at the very least like a kind of like a rough game. And then you get to the final 5 minutes, he's like, all right, I'm just gonna make all the shots, make all the plays now. Where you'll see him hit a transition three and then go back and get a steal or a block, which turns into him getting the rebound and taking it coast to coast again. And it's just like he's making plays like that consistently. The thing that worries him about it is how important he seems to be to the Sixers already in his young career. That worries me a little bit. As talented as this Sixers backcourt has been, I'm always obviously a little nervous when we have to rely on a rookie this much, but so far he has been that good, better than we all thought he was going to be. Um, and the two man game aspect that he's developed with Embiid, Maxey and Embiid already had that, and that has actually also already shown improvements this year. But now it's also VJ getting involved with, or even I'm watching the Magic game right now, and there's already two man stuff going on between VJ and Joel Embiid in this, where you're kind of like it's just those two on one side of the court, everyone else empty out, and you let them go to work, and Embiid sets a screen, and VJ is making the right decisions, taking the right shots with him. So the fact that he's already developed that as well with this big man, it's encouraging to see, man. It's impressive for a rookie to be this far along already. We already talked about Cedric Howard. I don't know how else to explain him other than just a bucket getter. Like that is gonna be one of those guys we're talking about like years from now, where it's like, dude, he just gets buckets. Like you can tell the respect that he gets from the vets on his team and from others. Where after games, everyone's going up to him like, holy shit, like this guy he's got it. Like I don't know how he's got it. Like off the dribble, off the ball, like whatever it is, like he seems to find a way to produce for them on offense and on defense as well. He's not bad. Um, I did also want to talk about, and he's starting to get a little bit more recognition now as the season's gone on because he's been getting more minutes. This is Caleb Love. He's nearly doubled his minutes as of lately. The past, I would say, at least couple of weeks. And he's taken full advantage of it where his numbers are bumping up where he was averaging 10 points, now he's averaging 15 points. His shooting numbers are, if they're not getting worse, but they are like slightly getting better. And we're seeing a playmaking aspect with him now. And I think this is more something that I've noticed like the past few games. So I kind of want a little bit more of a sample size, but the playmaking aspect with Caleb Love has been pretty interesting actually between especially him and Donovan Clingan, the pick and roll game they can have together. Like he's showing a natural ability to work with him and to create plays for others, and it's been a lot of fun to watch, and it's also I mean, because we're talking about rookies, but this is more of a youth movement thing, and I was gonna save this for. I'll save it because there's going to be a Portland conversation I want to have. But Caleb Love is a part of an overall mindset I've started to have with Portland as they start to look towards the future and just this current season in general. But I also did want to talk like Con Knipple. He's shooting like 42% from three. He's already a star player for the Hornets. And when you have him, LaMelo, and now Brandon Miller out there as well, when they're all healthy, they're a fun and dangerous trio to pay attention to with the Hornets, man. Like you got Khan who can shoot, and I mean he just kind of feels like he does everything for them all the times. Lamelo, what he is, but he can make some crazy damn plays for you. He's still a great passer. And Brandon Miller has been he's just getting better and better as he's gotten healthier, man, and he's starting to get some buckets for them and make some crazy plays in general. But yeah, so Khan, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of like this isn't gonna be as cut and clear rookie of the year award as we thought it was gonna be, where everyone's like it's just Cooper Flags to lose. I
Yeah.
think right now he would probably still would be number one in it, but VJ Khan, like guys like that are gonna be like right behind him.
Yeah,
But
those three you mentioned, Flag, Khan, and VJ, I think are going to be the well as of right now. Like, a lot can happen. We had McKagan pretty high, and I think he still would have potentially won it. Obviously, it's easy to speculate that, but injuries play a factor in everything. But Khan, and this is I saw this stat. He is currently on a streak of 11 games with 15 points or more, which is the most by a Charlotte rookie since Alonzo Mourning.
yeah,
So he's scoring at will, and he's also continuing to do the other things all around. And trust me, I saw that firsthand with OKC.
yeah, and we even mentioned like we talked about a lot last show, but Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, goddamn Pelicans, you got those picks right. I'm a huge fan of both of them, man. Like these are two players I would love to have on my team. Like I, especially Fears, my kind of guard, man. He's a dickhead. He's a dickhead, but he's a highly athletic and I think smart guard who also is like he has fun and he just fucks with people.
Yeah,
Like it seems like anytime there's a skirmish or something going on with the Pelicans, he's just like even if he's not the initiator, he's nearby, just kind of like smiling. Like he's just enjoying like the foolishness that's going on. It's I don't know. I love that about him. And then one more I have to mention, Trey Johnson with the Wizards has been shooting the shit out of the ball, dude. Like he is hitting logo threes. Like he's on the move, catch and shoot, whatever it is. Trey, I mean, he's living up to his name, man. He is shooting the shit out of the ball, and he's getting better as he's gotten more minutes because of certain injuries that have happened with the Wizards. He stepped up, and I think he's only improved and shown that he can be an offensive weapon for them. What's he averaging right now? He's got from three, he's averaging 39% from three right now, which would be one of the tops of all the rookies right now. I think the only one who has a better percentage than him right now would be Khan. Yeah. So he's the second best shooting rookie right now based off of that. But I think he'll be the best shooter. I think he is the best shooter in this class. Like I know a lot of people say Khan is still the best, but I think pure shooter, I think I would give it to Trey Johnson.
I agree with you.
Are there any other rookies you wanted to talk about?
Um, honestly, I think you kind of hit on everything. The one thing I would say about Fears is, and this is you could say it's about every rookie in the development, is
Hmm.
consistency.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, you want to see a lot of consistency from him, especially. But like once again, it's a rookie thing, and when you're adjusting, it's easy to have ups and downs. We saw VJ Edgecombe, fucking take off to start the season, and then people were like, "Oh, he's not as good because he came down to earth." And it's like, no, it's finding consistency.
It's the ebbs and flows.
Yeah, ebbs and flows. Teams adjust to you once they actually have film on you, and not just like looking back at college film, which isn't entirely indicative once you're playing against actual NBA level players. And I think you start to see these adjustments made where it's like, oh, VJ Edgecombe isn't invincible because teams have found ways to look at film, analyze him, find the ticks in his game, and then at the same time, he's looking just as much at that as well and finding ways to clean up his game. So these are all things that I think it will be interesting to see as we continue to just see teams, play.
Yeah. I'll say before we move on, just a couple other names I kind of want to watch a little bit more to get a better feeling on them. Danny Wolf with Brooklyn, a little interesting. Walter Clayton Jr. with Utah. He's been stepping up for them,
Yeah.
and I think he's actually been playing well as he's gotten more minutes. So I kind of want to watch him a little bit more. And then Hugo Gonzalez is just fun to watch on Boston. He plays exactly like that sicko wants him to play. So, all right, let's move on. Let's get to just certain teams and players that we just have on our mind that we want to talk about. Did you want to start with somebody?
Um, Honestly, like we covered a lot of ground,
Okay.
and talking about this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Um,
skipping some teams I had down because we already talked about them.
yeah, but I will say off the top of my head, there's one team that I'm looking at, and I think we expected them, and they could potentially be a trade deadline team. The Cavs, like they're just not as good this year. 21 and 18, eighth in the Eastern Conference, and I think they are one of the teams that, with the all the injuries to the Celtics and how things were looking, we were like, all right, like this could be a year where they finally get over the hump, and it has not been one of those years to start so far. But you have Donovan Mitchell doing everything, like is
He's trying.
yeah. And this is my question: is that do you see something shaking up there? Like I know Darius Garland has been kind of rumored in some stuff, and when you get a couple of guard needy teams that need a playmaker, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Mavs try to reach out or something, especially because he still is young. I know the injuries are a concern, but I would be much. I think it'd be safer to go, ironically, for him over a John Morant.
But yeah, I just don't know what the move is for the Cavs because you're so invested in. Like, I think you're right. It's Darius Garland, Jared Allen are the two you're probably moving. You're moving people, but it's so weird how disappointing of a season a lot of these guys are having between Garland, Allen, Mobley, even DeAndre Hunter's been kind of disappointing lately. Not kind of, he has been disappointing lately. Like there was a point like a few weeks ago where he was thanking God because he just made a three. It's just like not really what you want to see from your team when you're relying on guys like that to make shots. So and like they've dealt with injuries and whatnot. It has been great, but you're right. This what the Cavs being the A seed right now is just astonishing compared to what our expectations were for them. So I do think they need to make a change. I just don't know exactly who they go to for that or what you bring in. They need some physicality. I feel like they need some energy. I don't know who you go to get that. Maybe this is a Kaminga team potentially.
Potentially.
I don't know. This team is weird, man, because they should be better. That's the problem. Is it's like
Yeah.
maybe there's a part of you as a GM or a coach where you're like, I think we can get this together with these guys.
They've also kind of pigeonholed themselves into this roster where it's like you've kind of, I don't want to say it's complete, but you've given yourself everything that you need to win, and the players just aren't like living up to the standards. Simply, like it's they're one of the rosters we're going in. If you were like, hey, they're just running it back from last season. Okay, cool. As long as no player takes a regression, you're going to be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, especially during the regular season when they seem to be impressive the most. But the step back of the players has been the exact downfall.
If you're the Cavs and it's like February 1st, right? Like 2 weeks until the trade deadline, you're still the A seed or lower. Are you? Is there a conversation you have with Donovan Mitchell? Is there a
About
conversation he has with them?
I could see it being the reverse, the second half of that, where it's like he comes to them and says, hey, like
I'm busting my ass.
yeah, and especially I think you mentioned a good point is that I think from a Cavs standpoint, you're like, hey, this team was just there last season. Like they're going to click and figure it out. And then if they're putting a lot of faith in that, and Donovan Mitchell sees that it's not paying off, you start to question that. So
Yeah, I don't know. I just they're such a confusing team. They're a team I want to watch more as we get closer to like the All Star break and just kind of see like is there anything that they're improving on? Like is it? I just because it's just been so weird for them. It just everyone seems off. I mean, they're currently. I mean, it's not all bad. They're 10th in offense, 12th in defense, but it's been getting worse. Like if you look at the past 2 weeks alone, they're 21st in offense. So it's not getting better as of late. But maybe you can flip that back around. I don't know. We've seen these players do it. That's the tough part
yeah,
about it.
And I think that like once again that's the prevailing thought in the locker room where it's like we're just there. We know this team
Mm.
works. Like it's get your shit together. Like it's a to get us there. So yeah,
Is there a ping pong table they can take out of the locker room or something? I don't know. Was there a bunny?
positivity bunny. Yeah,
Yeah, they want a positivity bunny. They call out Howie Roseman. Maybe he can get it for you.
I think it's popped somewhere. So it might need to. You can get the site from which you ordered it from.
It should be in the Schuylkill with a lot of other crime.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. A team I wanted to talk about real quick is a team you might not be the biggest fan of right now, but that
Oh
is the
no.
Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker hit a game winner on y'all. That was nuts, but which was actually crazy that he did it with a three as well. I think it was like one. That was like the only three he made that game. But genuinely, the Phoenix Suns have been a. I would you say they're the most? Well, it's either them or the Clippers. I feel like most surprising or the Cavs. Top three most surprising teams. I have to say it's Phoenix,
Surprising teams
Clippers, Cavs.
in a positive direction. I would say the Suns because
Yes. Yeah.
I came in not having a lot of faith in Jalen Green. I still don't have a lot of faith in Jalen Green, but it doesn't matter.
He hasn't even really been playing, so
Yeah. So I think a lot of credit, and I think he's okay. Underrated is a very special term in today's era because people who it's easy for anyone to say, "Oh, this player is underrated." I think it is truly like it's underrated has been oversaturated,
yeah.
um, and same thing with overrated. But I think Devin Booker is a very underrated player in today's NBA, where he doesn't get a lot of recognition for being such a contributor and doing it for so long. Like this is a man that's like been in the league like damn near 10 years. Yeah, like 10 years. And that's even crazy to say in itself, where it's like he's still doing this and has been doing this since he was like so young.
I don't think he's 30 yet.
He's not. I was thinking. I was like, I think he was like 18, like hooping and taking over that Suns locker room from like Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah.
And now it's like now we're seeing him still do it for his team. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, look, Colin Gillespie has been a revelation for them. He's been a surprise for. I mean, he's up there for most improved player, I think, consideration. Um, Dylan Brooks has been insane for them. And it's funny because he's also I've seen his name pop up some trade rumors to potentially go to like the Lakers
yeah.
to help their defensive problems. And I'm like him and LeBron and Luca. I don't know if they can be on the same team.
You're asking for chaos.
But at the same time, I feel like Dylan Brooks is also one of those guys, kind of like the Pat Bev thing, where it's like you fucking hate him, but then you get him on your team, and you're like, man, I kind of like this dickhead. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's nice to have him around. I don't know, but yeah, that'd be good. Oh my God, I'm gonna fuck up his name. Osa Iguodaro has been like I could just keep naming players for them, but it's just there's so many players on their team where you're like, wait, they're popping off, they're playing this well, like Gillespie, Iguodaro, even Dylan Brooks have been surprising people, especially on the offensive side, like what he's been able to contribute for them. Jordan Goodwin, like I think he just had a game where he hit like 8 threes, and it was like, where the fuck did this come from? It's just like they're getting contributions from players that you weren't expecting, and it's nice because this was a team that was trying to like buy in and like sell their soul for like the big three aspect of building the roster in recent years, and now they bring they're just like, hey, Devin Booker, it's you, Dylan Brooks, and just kind of like a bunch of dudes. It was supposed to be Jalen. Not I'm not gonna. That's honestly being rude for how this team has been playing. I don't want to call them just a bunch of dudes,
Yeah, a
but like
bunch of dudes. It's
yeah,
crazy.
but yeah, but it's just like
I
that.
get
That would be
that was the
when you,
sentiment going into the season.
exactly. And then Jalen Green's only played 2 games. So like when he gets back, what does that look like as well? But like I don't know, man. I'm just curious. My thing with the Suns is like, can they avoid the drop off that they haven't been able to avoid in recent years? And I think this team could just be like if they ended up eighth seed, right, making out of the play-in tournament with the way they're playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised. And they're going to be one of those teams where you're talking about like, hey man, you get Devin Booker or some of these guys in the playoffs, they could be a team that would be a tough out, like legitimately. Like and I would honestly love to see like I'm not a Suns fan. I think their owner's also, but Devin Booker's a sick fucking player. Like he is a professional scorer. He's one of those guys where like kind of like the way I was talking about Kawhi earlier, where it's like once he gets in that flow, you're not stopping him. Like you're just not. The thing that's lucky for a lot of these teams is like he's not taking and making as many threes. But even if he's not taking all those threes, he can still get you 30 a night just purely off of everything from the 3 point line in.
Yeah.
So I just I don't know, man. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Their coach has been like I don't know. he's coming in and just basically like we're gonna play hard. They're physical on defense. They don't back down to anybody. And I kind of want to see if they can keep this up. Like if the consistency is gonna remain.
I agree, and I think so. I was watching the starting five documentary over break just to see my king of course a personal look and I think they focused on Kevin Durant. Well, obviously he was one of the five, and just the Sun season and talking about like all the drama surrounding all the trade stuff last season, where it's like he's gonna be out of there, and I was well, obviously we know the outcome of that. He wasn't until the off season, but I think this year, I think what we're seeing from them is a bit more sustainable because it isn't just a like, and yes, like a lot can
Because it
happen.
isn't just give Kevin Durant the ball and
Yes,
do
and that's
something.
yeah, and I think it was a lot of hey, Kevin Durant's here. He still like has his twilight years, or he's in his twilight years, but it's still one of the elite scorers. Give him the ball, and everything else will sort itself out. And that wasn't sustainable. Yes, I was like, oh, the counterpoint to that is that you're kind of doing that with Devin Booker, but not to the same degree. We're seeing a lot of other players step up.
100%. Yeah, and it's actually been kind of fun to watch. Like they're genuinely like a fun team to watch. Okay. Next team I wanted to talk about. We already kind of talked about the Clippers and the Timberwolves. Shout out to Anthony Edwards though, 10K points, third youngest player to ever do that. He has been so good this year, man. I mean, you could tell every single offseason when he's like, I'm gonna work on this, and then he just does it and he's good at it. The next year was like last year was like the 3 point shooting. He
Yeah.
still has maintained that. Like he's still hitting like crazy amount of threes. But now it's the post game stuff. And it's just like fuck. Like there's you I don't know how you stop this guy on offense at this point. I just the longevity of this team and how far they can actually make it in the playoffs. But I mean, this is a team we've seen make it to the conference finals like several times. So now I think this is a team that's not being paid attention to enough within the Western Conference. But I do think they should be considered as like one of the top four teams within that conference with how they've been playing
Yeah.
defensively and on offense. And I think they can get better. Like I genuinely think they can get better. They're sixth this year in offense, fifth this year in defense. They've been hovering around being top five in both, which no other team has like even been like. Yeah, no other team's getting close to that really, besides like OKC for being top five in both. Houston, I guess. But yeah, they're like one of the three or four teams in the league where like they could be top five in both. Okay. Any teams you want to talk about before I move on to my next one? So I can
Honestly,
kind of like rapid
yeah,
fire through
you
these.
can rattle them off. I'm out of teams. We hit on everything I wanted to talk about.
Okay, I did want to mention. Okay, so I brought up Portland earlier, and my kind of thoughts with them. Obviously, Portland's one of my teams.
Here we go.
Where they're like my Western Conference team. But look, there's a thought that's been yeah, I say hilarious. There's a thought that's been slowly creeping up for me as the season has gone along. And while Denny Avdia he's been playing well.
I don't know
He
about
annoys me.
everything all star voting well, but
I, do, I don't like watching him. That's my thing. I don't like watching his style of play because the foul stuff starts to piss me off. When
but
you're
they'll bring up Shea. They'll talk about Shea. He's out there. Okay, sorry.
it's well when I say the foul stuff, I mean it's like he gets a lot of like he takes a lot of free throws. Like he takes like nearly 10 a game right now. But I think it's like literally 9.9. But my problem with him is like the complaints about not getting calls after every single drive, every single one, to the point where he's complaining to the ref and the play is moving on without him. Shit like that pisses me off. But why? My thought with the Portland is that there's some young players starting to pop for them in a way where I think Portland, who does have some money to spend, and you could be involved in some of these trades coming up like sneakily, there's some consideration I think you have to take for the future of this team where Damian Lillard is waiting in there, right? But he's more on the tail end of his prime. He's a legacy guy, right? And I think he could actually be a very useful, like great player for them going the next year when he comes back healthy. And I'm not saying Denny Avdi is a bad basketball player and that they couldn't use him and that he's not contributing in a way that helps them. But what I'm saying is these other younger players in Shaden Sharp, who is starting to hit better shots, Caleb Love, who I mentioned earlier, who's starting to play better for them as a guard. And then you also consider Scoot potentially coming. I don't know when the fuck he's coming back. I thought he was going to be back like at least like a month ago, but hopefully you get him back by kind of near the All-Star break and you can see what you've got with him. But then also Donovan Clegan, who is generally playing like one of the better younger centers within the league, and he's starting to like we saw that even his rookie season they were encouraging him to do this, but he's taking more threes and he's starting like I'm not saying like he's going to be taking like 5 a game and like hitting like 60% from 3, but he is like it's becoming more of a part of his game. So if you get that from him where he can do everything that he does so well down low, but then he also becomes someone you have to respect at the 3-point line, you have a good young core here where if you were to move on from a guy like Danny Avdia and make some trades to get some other significant players in there to fit more of what you have going forward, I don't know if Danny Avdia fits that timeline, and I think you could potentially focus on more of a youth movement that could continue to develop this year, and then you really start to take off next year, like with the improvements they made this year, and then you add the addition of Damian Lillard to that as that older vet. I don't know what you do with Drew, some of these other guys, but and I think Jeremy Grant has like forever been in trade talks, and I think he could be moved here potentially soon as well. So I don't know. I think if you wanted to look at what you can do for Portland going forward, because it's not like we're talking about them being a playoff contender right now this year, I think you could focus more on this youth movement that you have going on.
Yeah. Um, just to kind of back up what you were saying about the free throw stuff. I saw this graphic and it's leaders in percentage of points scored from free throws.
And this is what really worries me.
Jimmy Butler's number one with 34%. Denny Avdija is right behind him with 30%, averaging 9.8 free throws per game. And then the rest are, James Harden, Luka Doncic, and Zion Williamson is 5. Shay's nowhere in the top 10, by the way. Sorry, I had to put that in there. But yeah, I think especially like when you see a player take an offensive leap like you see Denny has, you're like, all right, like you want to see it be sustainable. And free throws are simply not a sustainable way of it, because in the playoffs, and they always talk about, playoff atmosphere is different, and it really is. Like, it truly is, and you get to see that every year where refs are a lot more forgiving of physical play. And things like this aren't going to be sustainable in the playoffs when you can turn to the ref and they're just going to look back at you. So I think I agree with you. That's the worrisome part.
Yeah, and like, this isn't me saying like, they should or they have to move on from Denny or that he's a bad basketball player. Like he can get some he's shooting 36% from 3. He can get to he can, the drives can be effective. My point is just like what is Portland's real like plan here moving forward, especially once you get Damian Lillard back next year. Like I'm starting to lean more towards the youth movement of this team.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, but at the same time though, like yes, all I'm saying is that I think Dame should be a part of it.
100%.
And I think you do start to question if Denny is, and especially if his value is that,
and that's the part of it. If his trade value is at a peak right now,
it's worth
yeah.
So at least pick up the phone and see.
Exactly. Take some calls. Like I don't think he's an untouchable. All right. So I got them. Sixers I talked about a little bit, but I do want to mention as they've gotten healthier, and it was funny because, it is the last game they played, which was against the Wizards, and it was the first time the Sixers had a fully healthy roster ready to go. Like no one on the injury report in over 2 years. It was like December of 2023 was the last time that had happened. And they brought that up to Nick Nurse. I think it was Aronson, or one of the Sixers report. I forget who, sorry. But they brought this up to Nick Nurse, and even he was like stunned. He was like, wait, really? It was the first time in his entire time coaching the Sixers that had been the case, I think. So it's just nuts. But as they've gotten healthier, as they've gotten those players out there, as Paul George and Joel Embiid have gotten the more minutes, right, as they've gotten healthier, it has looked good. And I'm so apprehensive about talking about this because of my PTSD with this damn team, where it's like, we look healthy, we look good. And then a week later, it's like, oh, well, then now this player's out for, 2 years. But look, man, 13th in offense, 13th in defense, like right smack in the middle, right? But I think there's room for improvement there, and their offense has been getting better as the season's gone along. They're like 9th in the past couple of weeks. I do think this is a top 10 offense within the NBA, and the defense, especially with Embiid. Look, he just dunked for the first time this season, like a few games ago. the jump hasn't been there, but he is clearly becoming more comfortable to the point where he's telling his teammates like, "No, lob that to me. Like I will go up and get it." And you're starting to see him be more confident in himself and his body. And as this is happening, as Paul George is doing the same thing, and Paul George doesn't have to be that primary guy, which means he can do more on defense, which he has been. He's been very good on defense, like legitimately. And then your guards in VJ and Maxi, dude, VJ is like borderline. I'm like scared to say he might be an elite defender. The shit that he's been doing. He had a double block, like swatted away a ball and then hit it again. It was like because just his pure athleticism allows him to do that. But
Were you just cheesing, just watching that as it unfolded?
you know what made me cheese is when they were playing the Knicks and they beat the shit out of them, and it was VJ guarding Jalen Brunson and stopping him, like as much as you can stop Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Like that shit like that is when you're putting your rookie on Jalen Brunson, that means something. And then Tyrese Maxey legitimately has a case to be first team All Pro this year. It's
I think he
insane.
is. Yeah.
The scoring is fucking amazing. Like he is hitting shots everywhere, like legitimately everywhere on the court. And then it's not even just like the jump shot; it's the drives, it's the way he's able to change his shot in midair. It's the sidestep, sudden middies, it's the faders, it's everything. And then on defense, he's contributing significantly too. He's not a guy you can pick on that end. So that means when the starting lineup is out there for the Sixers, like this should work better for them defensively, especially as Dominic Barlow gets more in there, who's been a revelation for them this year. And then I don't know, maybe the Sixers look at adding more to their four spot through the trade. But I'm so I hate being excited about this team because there's also always a feeling in my head of like I'm so nervous. Like I'm just this team makes me nervous.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was going to ask you is how like where do you see this team ceiling being?
So okay, I mean we could have said this at the very beginning of the year too. If this team is actually going to be this healthy and play this well, they should be one of the better teams like considered to come out of the East. They're clearly not afraid of the Knicks.
Is the health
Clearly, I
sustainable?
mean, if dude, I think if they can stay like this, you're looking at them, Detroit. I can't believe I'm saying Boston, but Boston, like as like your teams to come out of the East. I don't, and then I mean we'll see how sustainable the Raptors are, or if the Magic can get their shit together. But like, this is also an Eastern Conference conversation. But like the Sixers are genuinely at this point, if they continue on this trajectory that they're currently on, and they can sustain this, right? I'm not even asking for 100% MVP Joel Embiid, but like 80% of him, and I mean he's basically averaging like over the past few weeks like 28 points a game. If you can continue to get this from them, this is a top team in the East. But it just it makes me so fucking nervous. All right, we kind of talked about we don't have to, we talked significantly about the Celtics last time. Basically, take what we talked about last time with the Celtics and just copy and paste it here, where it's like, hey, they're still doing it. They're still one of the like number one offense in the league, if not just number two. Like they've been a top three offense this year, and their defense fights like hell. Joe Mazzulla is a fucking sicko, and this team plays like they take on his identity. That's like really the best compliment I can give them. They play like their coach wants them to play. And while I'm not a Celtics fan by any means necessary, I'm a big Joe Mazzulla fan. He is a sicko's sicko. Last team I kind of want to talk about, and then yeah, the Raptors. We talked a little bit. I already talked about Scotty Barnes, and like there's games where he takes over. Like if he sees an advantage or a matchup, he takes over. Like look at the Warriors whenever they play them, and Scotty Barnes goes, "Is you know that like." This is I should apologize to my parents before I say this, but like
Oh,
you know that meme where it's like the guy pointing at himself, he's going, "I'm pussy." It's basically like Scotty Barnes did that to Draymond Green when they played him because it was like Draymond was doing his thing, talking his shit, being like, "Oh blah blah," blah. And it's like Scotty Barnes looked at him, and was like, "Oh, you're gonna talk some shit," and then he just dominated in the paint the rest of the game. And what's been impressive about Scotty, it's not just his shooting getting better and what he can do in the post, but it's also the playmaking aspect, him finding his teammates and making the right reads. Like whenever the double team comes, I think he's able to make those right reads and kick it out to where they need to go. Brandon Mingham's doing his good. Dude, Jamal Shed is an elite defender. They attack closeouts like it's well, I almost made a bad reference, but
oh.
they're killing these closeouts, man. They're so aggressive on those, and then like the switches, like they switch on everything. The Raptors are really, really, really impressive, man. And like they're another one of those teams. They're to me that they're kind of like the Suns of the East. It's just the East is so shitty that like like the Raptors are the fifth seed or the fourth seed actually. Sorry, the Raptors are a four seed, whereas the Suns are an eight seed. But dude, I think the Raptors could maintain this. Like I think they will be a top five team at the end of the year in the Eastern Conference.
I agree.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about?
So the final thing I wanted to bring up, and this is something that we've seen more and more kind of open up a discussion as the season is going along, is the injury rule when it comes to affecting end of season awards.
You mean the Joel Embiid rule?
Yeah, the Joel Embiid rule, and yes, like when it was put in, I was like, I agree. Like, what the best, you need to have players available to be able to be in consideration for these awards. But now I think people are starting to question it, and this will be interesting to see like how strong the league holds firm. But when we see a player like Jokic now, who is potentially almost out of MVP, consideration because he's basically almost missed the amount of games that's required, you start to question, all right, like how firm is the NBA going to hold on this type of thing where we're seeing like a player like Jokic potentially missing out on an MVP? And yes, like we don't entirely know. Maybe he comes back and still has a couple of games left and we don't see another injury, but it's getting pretty close where you're like, I don't know if he'll be able to, make the game requirement. So, and it's not just him, it's other players as well. And you consider like, it's not just MVP, it's all NBA votes. It's all like, all, not all star, all NBA, any, other ones, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year. Like these are all things that matter. Especially I mentioned like, contract incentives, like these things matter. So it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because they were even saying like Luca is kind of right on that line. Giannis, I feel like Giannis is probably already past that point. But like you're gonna have players like that, like you said, where it's like they're not even gonna be able, like they're gonna be disqualified
Yeah.
from getting awards like that because of this rule, uh, which I jokingly call the Embiid rule, but it is. Like, it was put in place because he was winning stuff, and they're like, well, he only plays like 50 games a year. But I'm like, okay, but I think it needs to be changed because if you're getting to the end of the year where you're like first team All Pro and it's like, well, Jokic played 60 games, so he can't be qualified for it. It's like that's fucking bullshit. That guy can get like he's getting you two triple doubles in a game, and we're like he's the best player in the world, and he's gonna be left off of it because of an injury that like he's not even an injury prone guy, but like injuries
Yeah.
happen.
I think it definitely will be a talk of adjusting the number of games. And I think like yes, this is something that's still fairly new, and I think that's my one thing I want to say to people is right. You can say, oh, that's too extreme. That's a hard cutoff, and you could be like, yeah, that is true, but considering where things were, where you have a Joel Embiid who is injured, and he's the only one that comes to mind right now. I trying to find another example. It's
No,
not
it's
clicking.
okay. It's all right. We can take it.
Yeah. Hell, even you could say a Luka Doncic with the injuries, and especially the 2 seasons ago. So even last season. So
Yeah.
these are
Well,
these are things
Wemby
that
might not be eligible.
yeah these which
Like
I
these are
look
the
I
best players in the world
yeah
that won't be eligible for awards or like all pro consideration because of a bad rule in my mind.
I don't think it's a bad rule. I just think, as always, it's very relatively new and it needs fine tuning. And I think the NBA will hit the drawing board. And I think is
Yeah.
the one
The
thing
intent
that
behind it was fine. The execution was it's
and
turning out not to be great.
and I think something that we're seeing more and more, and this has been a big thing with the All Star game, is that they're willing to say, "Hey, we messed up. Let's workshop it again," even if they're workshopping it for every year. But I think I'd rather see that than be like, "We're sticking with this. Nobody likes it, but we don't care. We're going to hold firm on it. We spent a lot of money to invest and rethink this." I appreciate that they're coming out and saying we're reworking this, and we admit that it's not good right now.
Yeah. I just need the NBA and Adam Silver to focus on the NBA and not where the fuck they got going
Yeah.
internationally. It's a global game. I'll always support and appreciate that, but I think they're moving things along too fast. If that
Yes.
makes sense, they need to fix some things within the game itself before you
Yeah.
expand it.
You can expand all you want, but if you expand and you're giving a subpar game to other places, then it's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else we need to talk about before we go? Let's see. Sixers are at halftime right now, so we're good.
I think I'm all good.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching and or listening. Deeply appreciate it. Everyone who watches, likes, subscribes, comments, like whatever it is, any
Hit the
reactions
subscribe
we get
button. No,
with
I'm
you. What?
joking.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and we really want to encourage more people to comment, ask us questions, like whatever it is. Reach out to us in whatever way you can through our channel or through our social media stuff. We would love to get back to you and have more fan interaction. So definitely contribute if you can. But thank you all for watching and listening. Like I said, we'll be back for our NFL show next week after the first round of the playoffs. Excited to watch those games and get back to y'all with our thoughts and notes. And then we're going to try and make some more basketball content be a more consistent part of this channel like we did in the past. But obviously things have been a little bit in flux this year. But
Yeah.
obviously we're big basketball fans, so we want to talk. But
And NFL season's wrapping up, so there'll be a lot more focus on NBA, and naturally a lot more of us talking about it.
yeah, less NFL film watch means I get to watch more sicko basketball. The 15 seed Pelicans are about to get a lot of eyes on them from my end.
I can't co-sign that agreement, but I'll be putting more effort into teams that actually matter. And one of those teams is the Jazz.
Yep, you're getting close, bud.
As
You're getting
things-
close.
I am nowhere close. 12
Wait,
wins.
I'm close in Jazz standards,
Yeah, fair.
which we know their standards are low on and off the court, but
But we're basically almost at the halfway point of this season.
and they're and what's the goal?
25.
And what are they at? 13. So
12.
at the halfway point, they're above 500 when it comes to reaching
Oh, it
that
is
goal.
13. I need to update it. Okay, so
13 out of 25.
but
12 more wins. You don't think they're going to get 12 more wins this
listen,
season?
you got to understand, second half NBA basketball is very different because teams started to look and say, where are we at and where do we need to be better in the future? And
But
the
I
Jazz
think-
Jazz are a team that say, hey, things are looking good. Are they a little too good? Which I hope they do because yeah.
I think they want to win.
If it okay, can I slightly amend?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know if the
Can I potentially slightly amend this a little bit and offer up different type of jersey options? Keontae George is hooping. That's all I'm saying. And
Oh, you're saying a different Jazz member jersey? Yeah. Oh, if you want to switch it to George,
Keontae George or an Ace Bailey jersey.
or I'll give you Sensabaugh
I'll
as a
let the
third
people
option.
decide.
I'll give you Sensabaugh as a third option as like a sneaky fun jersey because I like him. I like him a lot just because I like him. He's a great shooter, but
The way Keontae George has been hooping, I think it's fair to get that amendment added to this. I'll keep the 25 game limit.
okay. I'll agree with that.
Fair enough.
I'll agree with it.
It's how it
I mean,
works.
you're getting a jersey.
Well, we'll see.
They're winning 12 more games.
If it will be a jersey, I think it's going to be the throwback ones. I really
Was
like.
there supposed to be a punishment for me for this too? Or was it just all
No,
you?
but we
No, I'm not
should.
involved with it. Never mind.
We-
I don't know why. Never mind. I don't know
No,
why I asked
look.
that question. No.
I-
Thank everybody for listening and watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you again next week for some NFL talk. Yeah. Bye.